Hello and welcome to Quantum Training for Supported Living DSPs. This will actually be a 10-part video series on the 10 takeaways, or in this case, I like to call them commandments for quantum. This is information that I have given to new hires in the past that really basically just says if you understand these 10 things, you will understand quantum. So basically what we're going to do is we're just going to go through them one by one. Each video is going to highlight exactly what the takeaway or the commandment is and why it should be followed. Again, my name is Trey Tarman. I am the controller for Rock Incorporated. This currently is being recorded in November of 2018. Excuse me. So if there are any changes to the software or the process in general, we will make sure to get these updated for you. So before I go further, let's go actually into what exactly commandment number 1 is. And actually, if you're not familiar with the 10 takeaways or the 10 commandments, they are located on the employee portal. They have been given out to program managers and home leads. At this point, I don't think they're printed and laminated and at every house by the computers, but I'd like to see that happen soon. So maybe in the near future, you'll probably have a copy at every computer. But anyway, takeaway number 1 says, always input the client information codes first, as some of these codes will actually transfer up to your own map or grid. And I have a little keynote or a little subnote that says all codes will transfer that do not have the staff description. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more in detail, but let's kind of see why we input client information codes first. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go log into Quantum. So again, every computer out at Hawthorne Glen should have the program on the desktop. So I just use my username and my password. And as you know by now, anytime you log in, you'll see this screen, but I don't know why they did it, but this up here is actually a link. You just click it and then you're into the system. As you may know, if you, in the event that you ever get an update notice, you can always just decline it. As of right now, in early November 2018, you do not see this screen when you log in. More than likely, it's going to look something like this. Probably in the next few weeks, we are going to roll out updated buttons. Everything that they do, the function, the location of these buttons have not changed, but we just updated the actual icons that look a little more uniform and a little prettier. So as of right now, you will not see this exact same screen when you log in, but the location of the buttons have not changed. So the main one we want to focus in on is this RHS, which again is Residential Habilitation Services, which is the entire purpose of supported living. This is where you put in your information for on your map or your grid. Some people say map, some people say grid. It's all the same thing. So if I use the terms interchangeably, please don't be confused. It's the same thing. So all we're going to do is going to click it. It's going to bring up this screen, and this is the map. And there's a few things we want to look out for. The first is this the right house that I'm in? In this case, it's 5301, which is, let's say, it's the house I generally work in. I did log in as myself, but let's say my name was Joe, and if I log in and I see Trey on my map, that's not right. You should never see another staff's name up there on where yours should be. It will always default to today's date, which in this case is November 2nd of 18. That sounds right to me. But just a little backup of anatomy. The top half here is actually you. And the bottom half is the clients that are associated with this house. In this case, in reality, 5301 is vacant, but we do have 2 test subjects. We have Sam and another. So actually, everything that shows up on the top half of this screen, is your payroll. Everything down here is billing. So pretty much, if you want to think about it this way, everything that's up here is money going out for payroll, and everything down here is money coming in for billing. So takeaway number 1 says that we need to input the client information codes first because they will transfer up to our grid. So let's say that in practice. So let's say hypothetically my shifts was from, let's say 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Actually, you know what? Let's make it even easier. Let's say 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. I only worked 1 hour. So when I first log in, or open this map, excuse me, it's going to default to midnight. Well, I didn't do anything on midnight. My shift started at 6 a.m. So actually there's two scroll bars you can use. There's one up here and one down here. So I'm just going to hit to the right until I see 6 a.m. Now, what's nice is you can use either one of these because depending on which one you use, they both of these move together. So as you can see, here's 1 a.m. and 1 a.m. Scroll over a little bit. Here's 4 a.m. There's 4 a.m. So it doesn't matter which one of these you use. Both of these time slots will move together. So, again, the example here is that I worked from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Now, I want to enter in the client information codes first. And remember, the bottom half, this area here is clients, up here is me. So I want to focus down here for first. So if my shift was from 6 to 7, one thing you can do to make things easier is you can left click and drag and highlight your shift. In this case, from 6 to 7. Now you may notice that each of these blocks, these columns, is 15-minute increments. So if I worked, say, 1 hour, there would be 4 blocks. Now be careful, some people think that if I work from 6 to 7, it would look something like this. Well, actually, this is saying that I work to 7:15. So just be careful, you're actually stopping just before. That's how you show that you work to 7. So I'm going to enter in another person's information first. So I highlight the shift. I'm going to right click, and then I get this screen. And as you can see, whatever you highlight, it's actually going to show up here. So it says from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. So the thing right here is I want to use this drop down here, and there's all these different codes I can select. Now, this is kind of just a foreshadow to takeaway number 2, but we only want to worry about things that do not have the word staff behind it. So this first one here, absent, there's community have, non-direct, support, or I'm sorry, res have, and transport. So everything that does not have a staff on, that's what we want to focus our attention on. Now the vast majority of the vast majority of the client code, that you're going to use is this one right here, res have and absent. Now, basically, since you're working in supported living, the clients that you're serving really fall into 2 categories. They were either in the house or they were not in the house. Just those 2 right there cover the vast majority of the information that you're going to enter. So let's say for another person here, they were in the house from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. So I'm going to just left click res have. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this button down here. It says enter selection. I can hit enter, and I'm going to go ahead and close it. Now, what this did was it took some information here. It took some information here, and it copied up to my grid. So let's assume I do absolutely nothing else to this page. Actually, 2 things are going to happen. Not only am I going to get paid an hour for providing res have services, but I can also bill for 1 hour of services that was received by another person. Excuse me. So actually 2 things are happening here. Because again, the top half is payroll, the bottom half is billing. But what about Sam? I don't have anything entered in for him on my shift. So let's assume he was absent. So another person was in the house, another person was not. I'm sorry, another person was in the house, but Sam was not. I would just select his, I would right click, I would hit absent, I put enter, and I would just close that window. Now a lot of people will tend to just leave these blank if there's not there. That's not technically a wrong answer, but from my perspective and from an auditing perspective, if you leave it blank, it doesn't tell me anything. It tells me either that they were not there or you forgot to input information. But assuming that, let's say hypothetically, Sam was not in the house, if I put that he was absent, now if I submitted it like this, this shows me that you're confirming that they were not in the house. So not only do I know that another client was in the house, but Sam was not in the house. You're actually confirming they weren't there. So again, res hab and absent are the codes that you're going to be using the most of. Just because, again, res hab means they were in the house, whereas absent means they were not in the house. And again, since this is supportive living, probably good 99%, of the codes you're entering are going to be one of those two. Again, it's not the end of the world if you leave it blank, but again, it doesn't tell me anything, so please try not to leave anything blank, because again, from an odd perspective, it doesn't tell me, it either tells me that they're not there or you forgot to enter it in. And if it's this latter, let's just go ahead and just put absent in, just because that way we have a confirmation. But that's the whole purpose of commandment number 1 is, as you can see, I just typed in, I've entered in that another person was in the house. At the same time, I'm going to get paid that hour as well, because the system assumes that, well, here, I'll do it this way. Let's say my shift ran over and another person was there for that 15 minutes. As you can see, it got copied up here to my payroll, because the system is assuming that if you're confirming that someone received services or has received residential services, you were that provider. So since you're that provider, that means you're on the clock and you're getting paid. So that's the whole premise of takeaway number 1, is the fact that, hey, put your the client information codes first, because it saves you it saves you double the work, that you don't have to do it up here as yourself. So that is takeaway number 1, and I will see you back for takeaway number 2.